Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. I am Sajjad Khan, a development manager with passion for all things data. In today's video, I am excited to walk you through the step-by-step process of installing SQL Server, the latest and greatest version of Microsoft's powerful relational database management system. But before we dive into installation process, let me give you a quick overview. SQL Server is a vital tool for managing and organizing large amount of data efficiently. Whether you are a developer or database administrator, understanding how to install SQL Server is a fundamental skill. In this video, I will guide you through the entire installation process, from downloading the installation files to configuring the server settings. By the end of this video, you will have a fully functional instance of SQL Server up and running on your machine, ready for you to create and query and manage database. Whether you are setting up a local development environment or preparing for production deployment, this installation guide will help you get started. Alright, let's jump into the installation process. On the SQL Server download page, where we can see different editions of SQL Server listed. And we have free specialized editions, SQL Server Express and a Developer Edition. SQL Server Express is a free, lightweight and future-limited edition of SQL Server. It is primarily designed for small-scale applications and lightweight websites. It has certain limitations such as maximum database size of 10 GB, maximum memory limit of 1 GB per instance. On the other hand, SQL Server Developer Edition is a full-featured edition of SQL Server designed for development and testing purposes. It provides the developers with a complete environment to build, test, and demonstrate the applications that rely on SQL Server. It is not meant for a production environment as it comes with license restrictions that prohibit to use in production environments. With Developer Edition, you can explore and utilize advanced features of SQL Server without the need for additional licensing cost. So we can download the Developer Edition. While installing SQL Server, we have two options to choose between basic and custom installation modes. The basic installation, it installs the default features and is designed to get the SQL Server up and running quickly with recommended settings. It's a good choice if you are new to SQL Server and you don't have any specific requirements beyond the default settings. With the basic installations, just we have to select a directory and then click install, and most configurations will be automatically set. Custom installation mode provides more flexibility and control over the installation process. It allows you to select specific features components based on your requirement. Select a directory where you want to install and click install button. It will start downloading the packages. Once it completes downloading the packages, it will open a wizard where we can able to install the SQL Server instance. Let's see step-by-step custom installation process for the SQL Server. SQL Server Developer Free Edition is for development and testing environment. It is not meant for a production environment. Once we have a SQL Server license, then we can enter the product key and we can make use of this instance for the production environment. Accept the license terms. It's installing the setup files and then it will validate the rules. We can ignore the Azure extensions for SQL Server. And then it will show us a wizard where we can able to select the features. That is, we can install the features that we want for our environment. So we can select any one feature here and then we can click on next. Microsoft SQL Server Instances. Server refers to a desktop or a laptop or a virtual machine where we install the SQL Server. An instance refers to a single installation of a SQL Server on a software. Each instance is a separate, isolated environment that can host multiple databases and can be managed independently. In Microsoft SQL Server, there are two types of instances: default instance and the name instance. Default instance is the initial installation of SQL Server on a server without specifying a unique instance name. The default instance is identified by the server's hostname or IP address alone. By default, SQL Server runs under MS SQL Server service name. Name instance. A name instance is an installation of SQL Server that is assigned a unique name during the installation process. Name instance are identified both the server host name or IP address and the instance name following the format. Default instances are commonly used when there is only one instance of SQL Server running, while the name instance are useful when hosting multiple instances on the same machine. When connecting to a default instance, you typically only need to provide the server name or IP address. However, when connecting to the name instance, we need to specify both the server name or IP address and the instance name in the connection string. For example, we have a name instance called instance1 on a server name myserver. Then we would use myserver/instance1 as a server name when establishing a connection. Now let's go back to the SQL Server installation wizard where we will configure the named instance. Default instance is the initial installation of SQL Server without specifying a unique name. By default, the SQL Server service runs under MS SQL Server service name. A name instance is an installation of SQL Server that is assigned a unique name during the installation process. Name instance are identified by both server host name or IP address followed by the instance name. Default instances are commonly used when there is only one instance of SQL Server running, while the name instance are useful when hosting multiple instances on the same machine. After defining the name instance, we can click on Next to proceed for the next step. Now we will configure the authentication modes. There are two types of authentications: Windows authentication and the mixed mode authentication. Once we select the mixed mode authentication, we have to specify a password for the SQL Server Administrator SA account. And we have to specify the users as a SQL Server administrators. After that, we can click on Next to move to the next installation process. Now once we click on Install, the installation process will start and it will take a few minutes to complete the installation. Once you finished installing, you won't see any icons on your taskbar or on your desktop. Let's click on the Start menu and then navigate down to the M. Right here I see that I have now installed Microsoft SQL Server 2022 and we can see some different apps. Let's click on the Configuration Manager. Once we open the Configuration Manager, where we can able to see all the SQL Server services and the state of each service, where we can able to start or stop any service we want. Now we have our server running. We also need a graphical front end that will allow us to write queries against our database. For that, we are going to use a tool called SQL Server Management Studio, which also referred as SSMS. I have mentioned the link below in the description. In this page, you can see a link, free download for SQL Server Management Studio. Click on this link to download the SSMS and run through the installation process. Once you finish installing the SQL Server Management Studio, launch the app and we can able to connect the SQL Server. Right here is the server name. I'm using the named instance. Microcare is my server and MS SQL 1 is my named instance. If you don't find any instance here, click on Browse for More, expand Database Engine category, and you can select the instance and click OK. And you can authenticate either through Windows authentication or SQL Server authentication and then click Connect. By this, we can able to connect the SQL Server through SSMS, which is the SQL Server Management Studio. By this, we successfully connected the SQL Server using the SSMS. And that's a wrap for today's video on how to install SQL Server 2022. I hope you found the tutorial helpful in getting your SQL Server up and running. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate your support. Thank you.